Good morning, dear student friends. I'm Dr. Godbola Mahendra Tukaram, welcoming you all on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to streaming on the 2-3 issues which are very important in the vertebrate geology. We are going to deal with the study of vertebrates and the study of vertebrates in connection with the geological time scale. When the reptiles, particularly the dinosaurs, were lost around 315 or 10 million years. Coming to the part of the scheme of my today's presentation, in today's presentation I will deal with the three aspects in the vertebrate paleontology. Those are the evolution, or before going to start the exact trend of the evolution of the reptiles, the study of the reptiles and the amphibians is known as the herpetology. We are going to study the herpetology. The theme of today's presentation will be like this. So three issues will be discussed in the present talk. The first one will be the evolution of reptiles, evolution of mammals, and third one, evolution of birds. As far as the concern of the evolution of the birds, I will subject it to explain how the Archaeopteryx has been adopted the mode of aviation life, how the halopication were taken place, and the process of the flight was taken place by the certain groups of the reptiles. The evolution of the birds or the evolution of the mammal itself is a evolution in the reptiles. Those things I am going to discussing. The reptiles arose about the 320 million years ago during the Carboniferous period, and the Carboniferous period itself is located in the Mesozoic era of the geological time scale. Again, it is very important to express the certain or the common characteristics of the reptiles. The reptiles are having the two most important characteristic features. The one is the presence of the scutes, and second one is the scales. The scutes and the scales is also a modification of the reptiles at the time of the bolite impacts and the endogenic activities like in volcanic eruption, because what happened at the end of the Mesozoic era or at the beginning of the at the Cretaceous period, around the 65 plus or minus million years ago, there was a continuous bombarding from the extraterrestrial planets as well as the endogenic activities like the volcanisms and so on, which was prominent at the time of the Mesozoic period. The reptiles in the traditional sense of the terms are defined as the animals that have the scales or the scutes, lay land-based, hard-shelled eggs, possess ectothermic metabolism. So defined, the group is a paraphyletic excluding the endothermic animals, like the birds are the descended from the early traditionally defined reptiles. The traditional definition of the reptiles according to the phylogenetic nomenclatures, which rejects the paraphyletic groups including the birds while excluding the mammals and their synapsid ancestors. So define the reptilia is identical to the sauropods. Anapsids and synapsids are also most important common terminology for describing the evolutionary trends of the reptiles and other vertebrates. Though Few reptiles today are apex predators. Many examples of the apex predators have existed in the past. So these are the reptiles according to the evidences on the basis of the presence of the fossils or the fossilized remains of the reptiles. The reptiles have an extremely diverse evolutionary history that has led to the biological success such as the dinosaurs, pterosaurs, plesiosaurus, mesosaurus and echinosaurus. When the reptiles has arose, the first reptile arose from the earlier tetrapods in the swamps of the late Carboniferous or the early Peninsulian Basquerian periods, increasing the evolutionary pressure and vast untouched niches of the land and powered by the evolutionary changes in the amphibians, and gradually becomes a more and more land-based. Environmental selections propelled the environment of the certain traits such as the stronger skeletal structure, muscles and more protective coating, that is the scales, becoming a more favorable on the basic foundation for the reptiles were founded. The evolution of the lungs and the legs is another development in the evolutionary process of the reptiles. That lungs and the legs are the main transitional steps towards the reptiles, but the development of the hard-shelled external eggs replacing amphibious waterbound eggs is a defining features of the class Reptilia and is what allowed these amphibians to fully leave water. Another major difference from the amphibians is an increased brain size. More specifically, the enlarged cerebrum and the cerebellum. Although the size of the cerebellum and the cerebrum is comparatively less developed as per the mammals of the reptiles, although their brain size is small when compared to the birds and mammals, these enhancements proves or shows vital in the hunting strategies of the reptiles. The increased size of these two regions of the brain allowed for improved the motor skills and increased the sensory development. Coming to the early reptiles, the origin of the reptiles lies about the 320 to 310 million years ago. We are going to discussing about the 10 million years span of the ruling of the land-based very gigantic and huge sized animals, that is reptiles, particularly the dinosaurs, in the swamps of the late Carboniferous periods, when the first reptiles evolved from the advanced reptiliomorphs or the labyrinthodonts. The oldest known animals that may have been in amnivorous reptiles rather than in amphibians. In Cassinaria, though it has also been urged to be a temnospondyle amphibians. This is the first amphibian or the first reptile. A series of the footprints from the fossil strata of the Nova Scotia dated 315 million years show a typical reptilian toes and the imprints of the scales. The tracks are attributed to the Hylonomus, the oldest unquestionable reptile. This is a Hylonomus, unquestionable reptiles, and it was a small lizard-like animal about the 20 to 30 centimeter in size, or 8 to 12 inches long, with a numerous sharp teeth indicating a insectivorous diet. The earliest reptiles were largely overshadowed by the bigger labyrinthodonts amphibians such as the Cochleosaurus, and remains in small inconspicuous parts of the fauna until after the small ice age at the end of the Carboniferous period. And these are the certain evidences which are stored in the forms of the fossils and those are available in the baleen, that is in Cochleosaurus fossils. 3 or 4 concepts which are very important in connection with the study of the reptiles. What are the anapsids, synapsids, diapsids, and the sauropods? The anapsids, synapsids, and diapsids are supposed to be parts of the skulls or the skeleton of the dinosaurs, and on the basis of the presence of the holes to the skull for the eyes and the nostrils, and those are known as the anapsids and synapsids. It was traditionally assumed that the first reptiles were anapsids, having a solid skulls with the holes only for the nose, eyes, spinal cords, etc. The discoveries of the synapsids, like the openings of the skulls, roofs of the skulls, and the several members of the para-reptilia, including the other parts of the other branch, that is a sauropsida, is itself divided into 2 main groups. One of these is aforementioned the para-reptilia continued the taxa with the anapsids, like the skulls, as well as the taxa with 1 openings behind each eye. The members of the other groups, diapsida, possessed a hole, their skull, behind each eye, along with the second hole located higher on the skull. The function of the holes in both the synapsids and the diapsids was lightens the skulls and gives the rooms for the jaw muscles moves, allowing for the more powerful bite. For the powerful bite, the anapsids has had the different kinds of the holes. From the top left to the clockwise from the top left, that is the Parasaurus is in extinct animals. The turtles have been traditionally believed to be surviving in anapsids and the basis of the skull structures. The traditionals of these classifications was disrupted with some arguments that the turtles are the diapsids and that survived the primitive states of the order to improve their armors. The later morphological and the phylogenetic studies with this in mind and placed the turtles form lives within the diapsids. All the molecular studies have strongly upheld the placements of the turtles within the diapsids, and most commonly as in the sister groups of the extinct archosaurs. Now coming to the evolution of the mammals. The mammalian evolutions, that is in tetrapods, has divided into 2 classes, that is in amniotes and the amphibians. The synapsids and the sauropsids, and synapsids is further divided into Eupelicosaurus, and finally theropsids and the mammals. The tetrapods is an ancient Greek terminology for a 4-foot or 4-legged or 4-limbed vertebrates. Anopsid is a clade of the tetrapod vertebrates that comprises in sauropsids, including the all reptiles and the birds and extinct para-reptiles and the non-avian dinosaurs, also known as in amniotes. The amphibians are the 4-limbed and an ectothermal vertebrates and the class Amphibia. All living amphibians belongs to the group of the Lyssa amphibia and inhabit a wide variety of the habitats, maybe in the water and above the water, that is a terrestrial environment. But synapsids are one of the 2 major groups of the animals that evolved from a basal amniotes, and the other being the sauropsids. The groups indicates in reptiles and the birds. The groups includes in the mammals. Every animals more closely related to the mammals than to the sauropsids. Unlike The other amniotes, synapsids, have a single temporal fenestra of the opening. Sauropsids is also a lizard-faced, is a clade of the amniotes and broadly equivalent to the class Reptilia, and Sauropsids is the sister taxons of the synapsids and the other clades of the amniotes, which includes the mammals as its only modern representative. Synapsida, the other clades of the amniotes that includes the mammals, only the modern representatives, and although the early synapsids have historically been referred to the mammal-like reptiles, synapsids were treated as a mammal-like reptiles. All the synapsids are the more closely related to the mammals than any modern reptiles. Sauropods and the Archosaurians reptiles, despite originally being named as a separate class of the Linnaeus taxonomy. Eupelicosaurian is a large clade of the animals. This is a Eupelicosaurian and characterized by the unique shape of the skull. Their skull was very unique and encompassing all the mammals and their closest extinct relatives. They first appeared 308 million years ago during the early Peninsulian epoch with the fossils of the Echinopterans and perhaps the even earlier genus, that is the Proto, and representing just one of the many stages in the evolution of the mammals in contrast with their earlier amniotic ancestors. This is a Cassiosauria is one of the two main clades of the early synapsids, and the other being a Euphelicosauria, and the Caesaurus is currently known from in late Carboniferous and the Permian, including the two superfamilies, different families of the small insectivores and the carnivores. Coming to the Theropsids is a major group of the Eupelicosaurian and synapsids that includes the mammals and their ancestors and the relatives. Eupelicosaurians are the relatives of the mammals, and many of the traits today seen as unique to the mammals had their origins within the early Theropsids, including the leaves, and that were oriented more underneath the body as opposed to the sprawling postures of the many reptiles and the salamanders. The Theropsids are just looking like a salamander. And in Spanicocondytes, it is a wedge point and the tooth family is an extinct family of small and large advanced carnivores, late Peninsulian and the Permian Pelicosaurs. The most recent one, the Dimetrons or the Angelensis, is from some late Cangurians and the early Rhodian San Angelo formations. The primitive forms were generally small, 60 centimeters or 1 meter. Coming to the characteristic features and the development in the size and the shape of the brain, the mammals, that is a Latin, or the mamma means the breast or the breasts, are a group of the vertebrate animals constituting the class mammals characterized by the presence of the mammary glands. The mammals are having the mammary glands, and which is the females produces a milk for the feedings and the nursing the young, that is a neocortex region of the brain. That neocortex region of the brain can give the activities or the which function for the mammary glands and for the taking care of their offsprings and nursing for their egg. The neocortex region and for or her ears and three middle ear bones. These characteristics distinguish terms from the reptiles, including the birds, from which they diverged from the Carboniferous over a 300 million years. That mammals are separated from the reptiles around the 300 million years from the Carboniferous period. Around the 6,400 extinct species of the mammals have been described and divided into 29 orders. The largest order in the terms of the number of the species are the rodents and the beasts and the ulipo and the other moles and shrews and the others. The next three are the primates, including the humans, is also belonging from the mammals category, and from the synopsids and apes and the monkeys and others, and the artiodactyl, that is the non-toad, and carnivora or the cats, dogs, seals and the others are belonging from the family of the mammals. Pelycosaurus is in older terms basal or the primitive or the late Paleozoic synopsids, excluding the theropsids and their descendants. Previously, the terms the mammals like the reptiles had been used, and in Pelycosaurus was considered an order, but this is now thought to be incorrect and seen as outdated because it excludes the advanced synopsids groups and theropsida. The terms paraphyletics and in contrary to the modern formal naming practice. Naming practice for the mammals. Thus, the names Polycosaurus, similar to the terms of the mammals like the reptiles, had fallen out of favor among the scientists by the 21st century and is only used informally, if at all. The modern scientific literature, the terms stem mammals, the stem mammals or the proto-mammals and the basal or the primitive synopsids are used where needed. The synopsids are supposed to be stem mammals and the primitive mammals. Stem mammals and the primitive mammals terminology can be used for those recent literature wherever needed. A basic cladograms of the origins of the mammals are the important elements in the transitions from the reptiles to the mammals. Reptiles to mammals is a transition. Important development in the transitions from the reptiles to the mammals were evolutions of the warm-blooded discs or the molar occlusions and the three ossicles, middle ears and here and the mammary glands. Those are the characteristic features of the mammals. By the end of the Triassic, there were the many species that looked like in modern mammals, and by the middle Jurassic, the lineages leading to the three extinct mammals groups, and those are the monotremes or the marsupials, and the placentals had diverged. Coming to the part of the rise of the dinosaurs has been raised near the end of in the Permian reptiles. The raised dinosaurs were treated as Permian reptiles near the end of the Carboniferous, while the terrestrials, the paleomorphs or the labyrinthodonts were still present. The synopsids evolved at the first fully terrestrial large vertebrates and the Pelycosaurus such as in Ediacasaurus, the mid-Permian periods, the climate turns and dry, resulting in the change of the fauna. The primitive Pelycosaurus was replaced by the more advanced therapsids. This is a geological time scales indicating the different kinds of the mammals and amphibians and turtles and fishes and so on. As we move from in Paleozoic to the Cenozoics and recent, the life has becoming more and more complex as we move towards the recent geological time span or the geological time scale. So this is also a geological time scale where we may find the evolutionary trend, particularly in the Mesozoic period. In the Mesozoic period, the dinosaurs were very prominent. In case of the, as far as the concern of the Cenozoic, tertiary or the quaternary periods, the mammals were prominent. The anapsids and reptiles whose massive skulls roofs had in postorbial holes and continued and flourished throughout the Permian period. The late reptile diapsids and the reptiles splits into two main lineages in Archaeosaurus, the ancestors of the crocodiles and the dinosaurs, and the Lepidosaurs, the predators of the modern lizards and the snakes. In both groups is and remains the lizard-like and relatively small or incompetous during the Permian period. The Mesozoic era is also known as the age of the reptiles. The Mesozoic era is also known for the reptiles and the age of the reptiles. The clade of the Permians saw the greatest mass extinctions known, and most of the earliest anapsids, synapsids and the megafauna disappeared during the replaced by the Archosauromorphs diapsids. The Archosaurus were characterized by the elongated hind legs and the erect postures. Early forms looking somewhat long-legged crocodiles, and the Archosaurus becoming dominant groups during the Triassic periods and developing into the well-known dinosaurs and the pterosaurs as well as the pseudosaurians. The Mesozoic is often called as the age of the reptiles. A phrase coined by the early 19th century and paleontologist, that is Gideon and Mentels, who recognized the dinosaurs and their ancestors of the crocodilians as the dominant land vertebrates of the today's equivalent. Some of the dinosaurs were the largest land mammals ever to have lived, while some of the smaller theropsids gave rise to the first birds. That the Mesozoic era, the age of the reptiles, theropsids prominence, the ancient Greeks, that is the wild beasts and the podavistoputs. In the Jurassic, birds evolved from the small specialized coelosaurians around the 1500 living species. This is also a Mesozoic age of the reptiles and the theropsids under the increasing pressures from the dinosaurs in the Jurassic mammals and the other regions. The third component of the evolution is the bird's evolution. The main points to the transition from the reptiles to the bird are the evolution of the scales and the feathers. Scales and scutes for the reptiles, whereas scales and feathers for the birds. The beak, and although independently evolved in the other organtus, and the halofication was also the characteristic features. The bone development and the flight and the warm bloodedness is another characteristics. The evolution of the birds thought to have begun in the Jurassic period. With the earliest birds evolved from the theropsid dinosaurs, the birds are categorized as a biological class, that is aves. The earliest known species of the aves and the Archaeopteryx and the Lithographica from the late Jurassic period. The modern phylogenetic genetics in place the birds of the dinosaur clades, that is the Theropoda, according to the current census. So these are the classification or the simplified cladogram of the center, which is given by the 2007, how the transition is taken place from the reptiles to the birds. These are the reptiles and this is the birds. Birds in the closest relatives. The evolution of the birds, which is a Silicosauria from in Greek means the hollow-tailed lizard, is a clade and contains all the theropods and dinosaurs more closely related to the birds than the dinosaurs. The Coelosauridae is a subgroups of the theropods dinosaurs that includes the cosmognathids and the Tyrannosaurus, Ornithomisaurus and the other vertebrates. The most feathered dinosaurs covered so as a Coelosaurus, and those were present in the Triassic period. However, the several skin impressions found in some members groups and the scaly skins indicating that the feathers did not completely replace the scales in all the taxa. Still, the impression of the scales and the strips is also present in the remnants, in the forms of the remnants. Tyrannosauridae, means the tyrant lizards forms, is in superfamily or the clade from the Coelosaurian theropsids and the dinosaurs, that includes the family or Tyrannosauridae as well as the more basal relatives. Tyrannosauridae lived on the Laurasia and supercontinent beginning of the Jurassic period. By the end of the Cretaceous periods, the Tyrannosaurus were the dominant and large predators in the northern hemispheres and culminating the gigantic Tyrannosaurus. The fossils of the Tyrannosaurus have been recovered on what are now the continents of the North America, Europe, Asia, and fragmentary remains of the possibly attributes to the Tyrannosaurus, also known from the South America and the Australia. This is the evolution of the birds, and the many raptoriforms is a clade of the dinosaurs with the pinaceous feathers and the wings that contains the Ornithomimosaurus and the Maniraptorans. This group was named by the Thomas Halls, and he defines it as the most recent common ancestors of the Ornithomimus and the birds and all the descendants of that common ancestor. The Maniraptoriforms or the Maniraptorans are supposed to be the recent which are belonging from the clade of the birds family. The Compsognathidae is a family of the Coelosaurian and Theropsid dinosaurs, and those are the non-avian dinosaurs. Those are the non-avian dinosaurs. These are in Compsognathidae skeletons of the scales. The Maniraptora is the clade of the Coelosaurians. This is also the Paul Sereno considers the significant or the superfamily of the ornithoclades. This is a bird, and that is a black bird, that is a true dotted is in clade, and the bird like Theropsids. Dinosaurs lived the most of the 20th century, or the Troodontids in fossils were few and incomplete, and they have therefore been alive various times with the many dinosaurian lineages. More recent fossils and the discoveries of the complete and articulated specimens, including the specimens which preserve the feathers, eggs, embryos, and the complete juveniles, have helped to increase the understanding about this group. Anatomical studies, particularly the studies of the most primitive Troodontids like the Cynoventor, demonstrates the striking anatomical similarities with the Archaeopteryx and the primitive dinosaurs, and the demonstrates that they are relatives. Comparisons while comparing a clades called as a pares. So this is the collections of the Troodontids clockwise from the right left to the bottom left. After the comprehensive studying the evolution of the dinosaurs, evolution of the mammals and the birds, the question is arising: what was the reason for the demise of the dinosaur? The close of the Cretaceous period saw the demise of the dinosaur. In the Mesozoic era, reptilian megafauna, alongside the massive amount of the volcanic activity at the time, the meteor impact that created the Cretaceous Paleogene boundary is accepted as a main cause for the mass extinction event. Of the large marine reptiles, only the sea turtles are left, and the dinosaurs, only the small feathered theropods survived in the forms of the birds. The today's birds are supposed to be the relatives of the dinosaurs in the forms of the theropods, and the end of the age of the reptiles leads to the age of the mammals. I have already elaborated the characteristic features of the age of the mammals and how the different kinds of the brain organ has been developed. Despite the change in the phrasing, the reptiles diversifications continued throughout the Cenozoic period, and today the squamates makes up to the majority of the extant reptiles today, over 90%. There are the approximately 9,766 extant species of the reptiles, comparatively with the 5,400 species of the mammals. So the number of the reptilian species without the birds nearly twice the number of the mammals. So this is a most important historical site which can give insight about the KT boundary or the demise of the dinosaurs, that is the Badlands near the Drumlers, Alberta of the Canada, where the glacial and the post-glacial erosion have been exposed in the KP boundary, and this is supposed to be the sedimentation in the extant boundary, and this thin line shows that obviously visible demise of the remnants of the dinosaurs. Thank you.